3 countries, 21 days, 4,000 miles. These are the numbers that one group would achieve while crossing borders in North America. Their trip begins in California. With all drivers gathered at the San Diego rendezvous, the Trans-America Trek was close at hand. Last-minute vehicle preparations and adjustments, followed by a final pre-trip route meeting, brought the trek to a long-awaited moment, the start. For the first leg of the trip, the convoy headed south, down a short highway stretch where it would cross its first international border and enter Tecate, Mexico.
Las vacas que ya son viejas, solitas se hacen montón. Las vacas que ya son viejas, solitas se hacen montón.
Tacos, American, $1. Come on in.
Me llegaron quejas de ese toro requesón, de ese toro requesón. ¿Qué pasó por tanto yuca?
Though everyone hated to eat and run, there was still lots of road ahead for the day, so it was back across the border and onward to the challenging California desert. The Anzo Borrego Desert provided the landscape for the trek's first off-road adventure, and what an adventure it would be. The twisted canyons of Anzo Borrego were formed from millions of years of flash flood activity, leaving some spectacular geologic formations which could not resist further exploration by the team.
Bridge. Oh, that's the second, isn't it?
Right up there, there's another
No, this
ledge.
is the second.
Isn't this incredible? Wow.
Soon, the team would come across its first bit of technical driving. The steep descent would help set the tone for the first stage of the trek, challenging driving and teamwork.
Look at the slide now. So far, it is 6:41 p.m. and we're at the location where we expected to have lunch. So day one, we're running a little behind on schedule, but that's okay because once we come through the wash, we can hit the roads and head north before the storm washes us away. Look at that.
Though the group was running a bit late, there was a bigger threat on the horizon.
Rain in the desert's probably not a natural thing.
No, rain in the desert is not a natural occurrence. But it picks up the arroyos, fills up the wadis, and you get flash floods. It doesn't look as though there's that much rain up there. When you look around, and if you would film up into the sky there, you'll see that there's not much there. It's blowing away from us. The wind is blowing that away, blowing away from us.
Who else needs to come down? Is that it? That's everybody here.
Yeah.
Okay, we wait, push on, or come up the hill.
Push on. Push on.
Push on? You've changed your mind now.
Push on. Please, everything is getting me to be a jerk. Push on, onward.
It was decided that the rain posed a minimal threat, and with about an hour left of daylight, the group wanted to push on in order to escape the canyons before darkness. But any plans of a quick exit were snared, as Paul and Amy's Defender 110 found trouble in a narrow, rocky section of the canyon.
The two halves of the drive system in the front, actually call them half shafts. But each of my half shafts are half shafts now. They're really in half. We were trying to crawl over the clutch and I heard a really loud bang. You can't mistake it when they let go. It's really loud. And now the right front wheel spins and the left front wheel doesn't. So it's almost certain we broke a half shaft. Fortunately, we have one, but we're still in a canyon in the middle of a thunderstorm, but there is a nice rainbow and I'm sitting inside and they're all working on my vehicle, so life is okay.
The delay would last nearly an hour, dashing all hopes of leaving the desert before dark, but darkness would prove to be the least of their problems.
Oh, look, we've got a flood. Okay, I'll walk it. Have a flash flood.
The light rain that the group had previously shrugged off turned out to be just a taste of the heavy showers that the rest of the area had received. And as the multiple canyons funneled into one, the many channels of runoff created a fast-flowing stream, a flash flood.
Would you believe it, we've got a flash flood going on here. So the guys are checking out to see how deep we got, and looks like it's flowing pretty fast. It's probably deeper than we think.
First stretch is definitely doable, and then we've got the 2 trucks up front. They're going to scout the next section. So this section is good, and there's a big dry spot there. We're going to pull the trucks up to that, and then have a look from there.
Man, I didn't know you could get so much water for such a small rain.
It turned out to be a very long and very wet evening. But after several miles and several hours of trudging through mud and water, the convoy successfully emerged to the tarmac.
We've just spent about the last 2.5 to 3 hours driving and finding our way down through the water, which has been a pretty amazing adventure for everybody. I'm absolutely soaking wet because Charles and I were leading, so it's been pretty good though. So.
Not bad for first day?
Yeah, I think they've had a pretty amazing first day actually. Makes the camel trophy look pussy though, doesn't it really?
It was well after midnight when the group reached camp near the mountain town of Julian. The late night meant a late morning, pushing the group further behind schedule. To make up lost time, the group took a highway route to Big Bear Mountain, where they could do some light off-roading before heading on to Barstow for the evening. That was the plan anyway.
They're evacuating where we're going.
As we speak.
They're evacuating Green Valley. That's why everybody's coming the other way. They're actually evacuating it, our trailhead.
Day 1, flash flood. Day 2, forest fire. We'll see what happens.
Looking for another trailhead, the group consulted Captain Dave Boyer of the San Bernardino Fire Department. To him, the idea of off-roading at this point in time was a gamble.
I wouldn't recommend it. Not back into that area you want to go. Any other time, it'd be great. But the fire's too unpredictable. I mean, it can turn, it can change, and it can burn, 200 yards in a minute. So it can move pretty fast.
Despite the warning, the group decided to proceed. Though the fire had already burnt 40,000 acres in the area, it seemed like a reasonable risk to continue the course.
I don't know. We were advised not to go, but the general consensus says we should go for it. The national parks people said it shouldn't be a problem if we're not overnighting.
The team stopped to air down on rumor that the trail ahead would be fairly difficult. The locals called the area the Mini Rubicon, and it would prove to be a challenge for both the skill and the endurance of the entire group. The rumors were correct. The trail was difficult. Under normal circumstances, bringing a group of 11 vehicles through a trail like this is a time-consuming process. And coupled with the element of darkness, you had the ingredients for another long evening.
Once again, it's taken us a little bit longer than we thought. It is now... Dave, what time is it?
Time? 9:15.
Is that morning or night, over?
Oh, it's that's morning.
It's quarter to 9 at night, and the fire is over there, and the winds are changing, so we're getting a little antsy.
The evening would prove to be especially challenging for Dan Radcliffe in his older Series 2 Rover. 43 was the lead vehicle that evening, and the dark, unfamiliar terrain presented numerous obstacles.
Forward, Dan. Yeah, we're holding you up. You're all right.
The Mini Rubicon would eventually catch up to 43, and it would take another group effort to get him out. By the time all was said and done, the group would ride into the early morning hours, allowing for an early celebration of Ray Miller's birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Thank you.
Hang on.
Spotlight.
Day 3 would bring the group to the heart of the California desert. The almost barren desert landscape, both surreal and beautiful, was more complex than it at first appeared. The seemingly straightforward trail held a wealth of challenging surprises. Like in Anzo Borrego 2 days before, the desert would again supply an unexpected water crossing. The rugged terrain would also help cause the trip's first casualty.
In the desert, as on the road, you gotta wear your seatbelt, otherwise you, I don't know. I just was in the back trying to get something, I hit a bump and hit my head and I'm fine. So, lucky. Windshield's not too good.
The group would also begin to discover why people call the desert a strange place. A monument in the middle of nowhere, celebrating over a century of nothing happening. But a more serious issue had to be addressed. Already behind schedule because of consecutive late nights, problems in convoy discipline added to the delays.
What we'd like to try and do, which is kind of difficult because everybody's out here to have fun and stop and take pictures, is we need to cover a little bit more ground than we've been covering, as I'm sure everybody realizes. And we need to communicate a little better because once we separate, we have problems.
The only law on an off-road trek is Murphy's Law, and after discussing the group's communication problems, the convoy would experience the biggest communication problem yet.
We've gotten separated when we went to go take the pictures in the middle of the salt flat. Made a determination it was better to continue forward than to turn around and go back. Have gotten just to the north and to the east of the salt flat. We've lost contact with the main party. Continue to call the main party so that hopefully they'll hear that we're telling them that we are okay and that we are heading north toward Baker. That way they won't be worried and that they won't send folks helter-skelter all over the place looking for us.
After more than an hour of separation, 43 in the group were finally reunited.
We should have known not to worry.
Well, no, you should have worried. As a matter of fact, he asked me, he said, why are you going all the way back? And I said, because chances are they're sitting there waiting for me until they hear me.
Well,
because it was in the blind.
We figured out from the map, what we were going to do is head to Baker and take that road into the back.
So it was working. Great minds think alike. Of course, you know, the opposite is also true.
The group would emerge from the trail and continue heading north, entering the gateway to Death Valley. The day took a toll on some of the vehicles, but after a speedy roadside repair, the group managed for the first time to reach their destination before midnight. It was another strange place, an old miner's outpost, long abandoned, yet well preserved. There is a reason they call this place Death Valley. The hot desert sun would awaken the group and accompany them for the day. The road would lead them through Stripe Butte Valley, a desolate place but a scientific paradise. At the far end of the valley lies a cabin once occupied by a geologist and now maintained by the generosity of passers-by. It's hard to imagine a more hospitable place in the desert. Food, water, a fireplace, and even a library made the geologist's cabin feel like home.
I'm going to take advantage of nice facilities here. You got to keep your teeth clean even on the road.
And as any decent travelers would, the group made their donation before leaving. The far end of Stripe Butte Valley would lead the convoy to Goler Wash, a remote area where burros roam wild, an area secluded enough for the perfect hideout.
All right, we are at Barker Ranch, notorious for being the last holdout of Charles Manson and his family until their capture here in October 1969.
Like the geologist's cabin, Barker Ranch is maintained by passers-by, but the fully furnished home gave the group a distinctly eerie feeling.
I don't know if I'd be sleeping in here.
2 chairs cemented into a hill behind the home served as a lookout for Manson and his henchmen. A rock pit pool once fed by running water.
Here we are. We're at the Barker House Ranch, home of Charles Manson, used to be. And let me just try and fill you on what I can remember of the little story. This here is the washroom where, in actual fact, Charles Manson was finally found. And if you can picture this little corner, right in the corner of this very grotty little washroom here, it was like approximately a 22-inch box. And this is what he was found. I mean, the guy must have been like heavily into some gymnastics or something, because he was found in this tiny box here. Anyway, picture this. And the only way that he actually finally got caught in this tiny little hole here apparently was because the guy was like just a freak anyway. He had like really long hair, and it was seen hanging out the corner of a box by one of the cops that was coming to the place looking for him. And when opening the box, they found this guy and he huddled up just free. Wow, pretty scary shit, man. Really scary.
Not quite so much. Not so much. Good.
Once through the wash, the group made the decision to continue to the saline warm springs despite being low on fuel, a decision that would nearly cost them.
Number 1 green, this is for the championship of the world. And a long low glide, hook to right, exactly the one that it is landing, right on the pin.
The resort-like atmosphere of the Saline Valley Warm Springs made it a difficult place to leave, but the group eventually had to face the challenges of the final day in the desert. With most of the vehicles already low on fuel, making it 40 miles to the next town would be a struggle, and 300 yards after leaving camp, they would add to their problems.
Nah, ain't gonna go. I think we've got a security problem on the alarm system on it, because it's immobilised the fuel pump. That's the most likely cause, so we'll have to see.
Are we going to tow it?
Yeah, we're going to tow it back because at the moment we've got everyone standing around, we're just wasting time, whereas we can tow it into town, everyone else can go and get themselves sorted out, we can then have a look at the truck. So
Phil Armstrong's diesel Defender had enough fuel to tow the lame vehicle into Big Pine, which was more than could be said for the rest of the group.
We just ran out of gas. We just sort of puttered to a stop and we're waiting for, I guess 37 or 35 has some extra gas, so get some of that.
37 and Antonio Menega came to Caroline's rescue. Using the last of his reserve fuel, the group was now at a critical point. They would need a lucky break to reach Big Pine. But fuel consumption only accelerated as the group continued to climb out of the valley. Then it happened. Finally, a lucky break. The group crested the mountain and coasted nearly 10 miles to Big Pine and the nearest fuel stop. But a certain irony lay in the moment. As refueling brought most vehicles back to life, Dan McCarthy's trip was over. His lifeless vehicle would be towed to Reno for repairs. The day would also mark a division of the convoy. As the rest of the group set camp near Mammoth Mountain, 4 of the vehicles drove through the night to South Lake Tahoe, where the Rubicon lay ahead.
4 of the vehicles drove through the night to South Lake Tahoe, where the Rubicon lay ahead. 4 of the vehicles drove through the night to South Lake Tahoe, where the Rubicon lay ahead. 4 of the vehicles drove through the night to South Lake Tahoe, where the Rubicon lay ahead. 4 of the vehicles drove through the night to South Lake Tahoe, where the Rubicon lay ahead. 4 of the vehicles drove through the night to South Lake Tahoe, where the Rubicon lay ahead. 4 of the vehicles drove through the night to South Lake Tahoe, where the Rubicon lay ahead. 4 of the vehicles drove through the night to South Lake Tahoe, where the Rubicon lay ahead. 4 of the vehicles drove through the night to South Lake Tahoe, where the Rubicon lay ahead. 4 of the vehicles drove through the night to South Lake Tahoe, where the Rubicon lay ahead. 4 of the vehicles drove through the night to South Lake Tahoe, where the Rubicon lay ahead. 4 of the vehicles drove through the night to South Lake Tahoe, where the Rubicon lay ahead. 4 of the vehicles drove through the night to Sou
We are right now at the Rubicon Trail in Northern California. It's probably one of the toughest trails in North America. I am pumped to be here. I learned about the Rubicon and Land Rover Defender in a magazine where they took a red stock D90 on the trail, very minimal damage, probably due to the driver's ability, and that turned me on to getting a Defender. I was told I couldn't talk about it till I finally bought one, and well, here I am. It's my dream to be here, and I just can't wait to go through this trail. Very excited.
As tough as some of the previous days had been, the Rubicon would raise the bar. Though the trail only runs 19 miles, it would take 2 full days of slow, technical driving to complete, pushing the vehicles and their drivers to the limit. The goal of every driver was to complete the Rubicon with minimal body damage, but trails like this inevitably cause bruises.
The official trail band-aid repair en route.
We can write on the band-aid.
Energizer Bunny band-aid.
Phil, thank you. This means a lot. It eases the pain.
It eases the pain. There we go. Put a band-aid on that one.
Very nice. And we just need a little more mud to cover it up.
Finally, as the afternoon grew long, the group approached camp at Spider Lake. Spider Lake, the trail's halfway point, provided incredible scenic camping and a great place for the group to relax for the evening. After a peaceful morning by the lake, the group broke camp and began the second day of the Rubicon. The trail wouldn't get any easier. To the untrained eye, many sections of the Rubicon Trail seem totally impassable. In many places, vehicles squeeze by through the narrowest of margins. But sometimes it's the vehicles that get squeezed.
We slipped just a little bit, and we're just trying to save ourselves some damage. A little bit tight. So we don't want black paint on the rock to match all the other colours. So just going to move the back end over a little bit. Just damaged, just there. Just unstuck the sticker just a little bit. Which, God, nearly had to stop and go home. Get a new sticker.
Part of the challenge of the Rubicon is the diversity of driving terrain. Along with boulders and flat rock, the trail has more than its fair share of water crossings. And to Vehicle 42 and Dwayne Beck, the wetter, the better.
Come on, why don't you get out and put up the tow strap, man? Back it up all the way. Keep going. Keep going in reverse. Back it up. It's coming. Keep it back all the way.
coming back. What do you think? Keep coming back.
Don't go fast?
No, don't do it.
Oh.
Let's make sure it's right.
That'll be alright. I should have brought my bathing suit.
A little wet, but not discouraged, 42 gave the deep water crossing another shot.
Oh yeah.
A few hours and many obstacles later, the four D90s would emerge from the Rubicon victorious. It was a very successful side trip. On the 8th day of the trek, the convoy would once again reunite. The rendezvous point, Klamath, California, a small coastline community near the Oregon border, lay nearly 500 miles from the shores of Lake Tahoe. With the Rubicon now behind them, it would be smooth sailing to the Pacific Ocean. But after a full week on the road, the group needed a timeout. A brief stop in the town of Anderson allowed for some much-needed maintenance. As the afternoon grew long, the sands of the Pacific grew near, and finally at dusk, the group would arrive at Crescent Beach, where they would come to the aid of a fellow off-roading enthusiast.
Dave, why don't we give the British man a shot at this? Second gear, low range. Straighten up the wheel there, partner. Left hand down. Oh, it's an auto. Lovely chap.
Oh, don't sound like you're like... Yeah. I've been in that here 20 fucking times since the first time I got stuck. You gotta haul ass, man. You gotta go fast. If you go slow, you get stuck. This is the first time I've gotten stuck. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. You know what I'm saying? It's embarrassing. Haul ass! Haul ass, Dave! He always wanted to. It's the only time I've gotten stuck! You gotta go fast! I've been in here 20 times.
Tell the cameraman.
What I'm saying is...
Hey, have you been drinking, ma'am?
Yes.
Me too. Bring it on.
What I'm saying is...
What are you saying?
This is all soft! And when you come across the creek, you got...
Haul ass, baby!
Fucking haul ass!
That's how you drive off-road. Haul ass!
If you don't give us some fucking gas and just go, you get stuck!
There's waiting for you.
That's how you get stuck!
I know.
Because you go slow and it just sucks you up.
I know. Hey, well look, it's out. It's out. It's all ready. See you, man. Have a good one.
Far out. Thanks.
Have a drink for me, man. You gotta have a drink.
You want beer?
No, we've got so much already.
The stop at Crescent Beach left only a short drive to the rendezvous point in Klamath, where the group would spend the evening catching up and exchanging stories. The crashing waves of the Pacific made a perfect breakfast companion for the group. On day 9, the ocean would become a familiar sight. It would be a day at the beach. The convoy would travel up the green Oregon coastline, where farmland meets forest, and where dairy cows graze in the salty air. The group would meet Oregon route setter Jeff Wong, who would lead them to Sand Lake Beach, a shoreline playground for off-roaders. But the fun didn't stop at the beach. An instant dance party erupted that would kick off a pleasant evening.
Everybody knows that the trouble starts when you talk all about the rest. First you went to college, and then you got yourself degrees.
Come on now, don't be afraid.
Come on,
John. Come on. Take that
You took yourself some pictures, and you showed them to your friends. Now you're heading straight to heaven.
The green slopes of the coastal mountain range would hold today's adventure. Triangulation Point, the highest peak in this range, would be the group's first stop. The coastal range presented a whole new environment for the convoy. Gone were the sand and boulders of the previous days. Now the drivers had moist earth and trees to contend with. And unlike the harsh desert environment of California, even the most delicate forms of life thrived here. One last push brought the group to Triangulation Point. Named by geologists surveying the area years ago, the peak provided a 360-degree view of the Pacific Northwest. On clear days, one can also see the distant peak of Mount Hood and the snowy cap of Mount Rainier.
Sitting up here, you just feel like the king of the hill, be able to see all 360 degrees around you, see the waves crashing out there at the beach. It's really fascinating.
From Triangulation Point, some of the group would continue through the forest to take a leap of faith. The nearly vertical drop was one of the trek's more intimidating challenges.
Okay, do we want to be in the car or out,
That's
Marianne?
what I was wondering. Do we want to walk down?
I don't know.
There's no shame in winching down this. Believe me, I take groups down here and half of them winch down. Because it's the first time you ever do it, it's freaky. So you want to get over as straight as you can. I go down in second low because if you start going out of control and the rear end starts sliding, you want to have enough throttle there to give it some throttle to straighten back out. The main thing is keep your wheels pointed down the way you're going. Okay, looks good, looks good. There you go.
With all vehicles intact after the free fall, it was time to leave the coastal mountains and head to camp. One of Oregon's most precious jewels along Highway 26 is Camp 18. This unique restaurant, with meals large enough to satisfy a Paul Bunyan appetite, celebrates the rich logging history of the Oregon coast. Photographs and memorabilia adorn the massive dining hall, which is capped by one of the world's largest suspended logs. It was a fine place to begin the day, but as usual, the meal was quick and it was back on the road. The convoy would continue heading north and cross the bridge into Washington State. The afternoon would lead them to the trip's most awesome site, Mount St. Helens. The remote observation area provided a perfect view of the volcano's massive exit crater, as well as the devastation the blast left behind. It's hard to imagine that before the eruption, the peak of this massive volcano was 3,000 feet higher than it now stands. With evening approaching, the team would head down the mountain, leaving behind one of North America's most incredible sights. Tomorrow, they would reach the Canadian border. The participants of the first stage of the trek felt the best way to celebrate their final day together would be to stop by the Skagit River Brewery. This unique brew house located in Mount Vernon is a great place to unwind over a game of chess and to have a beer while overlooking the Skagit River bottling operation below. The fast pace of the bottling process reminded the group of the frantic pace of the past 11 days. There were many stages in this long, exhausting journey, but in the end, both produced memorable results. Not to be denied, the convoy would take a few cases of the Skagit River brew for the road, but cheers for now because the border lay close ahead. The Peace Arch, the symbolic gateway between Canada and the United States, marked a milestone for this international trek. With the exception of one vehicle, the Stage 1 participants accomplished their goal of arriving in Canada 12 days after leaving Mexico. The long days of driving challenging terrain proved their driving capabilities and reaffirmed the rugged reputation of Land Rover.
I think this is a wonderful place. I'm glad to be in Canada. We've actually gone border to border. Oh, wouldn't it be grand with a Molson in my hand?
For some of the drivers, the 8-day countdown to Inuvik could now begin. But for many, this was the happy ending. After the official border crossing, it was on to Richmond Land Rover, where the participants of the two stages would meet. Tomorrow, the journey to Inuvik would begin. The journey to the Arctic Circle would begin by revisiting the Peace Arch. For the members of the second stage of the trek, it would be the case of one step back and over 2,000 miles forward. The convoy would first have to navigate the impressive avenues of downtown Vancouver, but the city streets would soon fade away to the open roads of beautiful British Columbia.
Local realtor here, he's in a wheelchair, and he has a specially designed bike where he pedals with his hands, and he's gone across Canada raising funds. And
spinal cord research.
Yeah, and he's just on his final leg here coming into Whistler.
He's coming home.
So he'll be home today. He's from Whistler.
After the short visit to Whistler Village, Stage 2 would finally leave the asphalt and head toward the old mining town of Braylorn.
So this is Braylorn. It's one of British Columbia's and North America's largest gold mines ever. So I don't know how many millions, but the most ever in North America came out of Braylorn here. The mines are still being used today. They're still mining for gold, and that puts at least half a dozen people in employment here. So They're still living here, but most of the place is shut down. Pretty dead.
The steep descent would end the day and lead the group to Tayatan Lake. Inuvik was now 1 day closer. The convoy would spend the morning of the 14th day wading through the area called Mud Lakes. But the muddy course soon gave way to vast alpine meadows, and a long winding uphill climb brought the group to China Peak. After the break, it was back on the trail and onto the meandering banks of the majestic Fraser River. Here, the drivers would have the unique off-road experience of the Big Bar Reaction Ferry.
Waiting for the ferryman on the mighty Fraser River. Waiting just to haul my car across to the other side. The road is long and hard that I have driven just to get here, and now I'm waiting for the ferryman to give my car a ride. Well, I guess I dropped 5,000 feet to get up to the river, and the road was mighty crooked as I drove my old car down. Now I sit here waiting to cross the rolling water. I can't go any farther o'er this road on which I'm bound. Someday I am hoping when I reach the golden shore, I'll find a ferry waiting to give my soul a ride. And I won't be left sitting just waiting by the river, waiting for a ferryman to give my soul a ride. Waiting for the ferryman on the mighty Fraser River, waiting just to haul my car across to the other side. The road is long and hard that I have driven just to get here. I'm waiting for the ferryman to give my car a ride. Waiting for the ferryman to give my car a ride. He's coming.
Along the banks of the Cornell River, the small town of Likely would serve as passage to the day's off-roading trails. The short day of driving would lead the group into the lush green forests of British Columbia. But the trail would emerge from the dense forest to reveal some of the world's most beautiful alpine wilderness. The road would eventually lead the group to the historical gold mining town of Barkerville. Established in 1862, the town functioned as the service center for the Caribou Goldfields for 96 years. Once home to over 10,000 settlers, Barkerville now serves as a tribute to the simple, hard-working lifestyles of the past.
Well, we were trying to get on the road early this morning, but
we mailed around the parking lot too long?
Yeah, we just decided we better cook here.
The drive to New Hazelton provided one of the most interesting sights of the trip. Spawning season brought the annual upriver run of the Pacific salmon, and for local natives, it was time to harvest nature's bounty. With fuel stops becoming few and far between, the quest for fuel efficiency fostered some creative driving techniques.
22 and 35 are also saving fuel today, running behind 7. It's called drafting. Joe is being really cooperative, and he's letting us draft behind him. And we're saving a lot of fuel this way since we're running short due to the long distances between the towns. Even the jerry cans on the roof, it's hard to get from town to town.
The group set camp in the land of the Kasan Indians, and it was time to celebrate. The end of this day would mark the halfway point of Stage 2. Inuvik was just 4 days away. The morning fog settled onto the land of the Kasan. It was an early start for the convoy. A long day was ahead.
Today we are heading towards Watson Lake from New Hazelton. The distance is approximately 500 miles. So we're going to have a very long day ahead of us. And this is not helping any, is it?
Despite the long day ahead, the group decided on a detour to Hyder, Alaska, where they hoped to catch a glimpse of wild bears feasting on spawning salmon.
When I was a kid, I grew up in Port Orchard, Washington, and we lived on Blackjack Canyon, and there was a salmon spawning stream. And the salmon were just like this. The stream was just choked thick with salmon, and after they'd spawned, they'd all die and wash up on the beach. And it brings back a lot of memories.
With no bears in sight, it was time to hit the road. But the friendly animals in Hyder made it a hard place to leave.
Okay, horse, we gotta go. Okay, we're going.
But finally, the group made it to the border, only to find a surprise waiting on the other side.
Well, we were about 15 minutes out of Hyder, Alaska. Then there was a mother and 2 young cubs on the side of the road eating berries. So we very sneakily, quietly drove up beside them and shot some footage of mother and 2 cubs. Looked like black bears.
The world-famous signpost forest of Watson Lake welcomed the group to the Yukon. Starting with just one sign in 1942, The forest is now home to over 20,000 signs from all over the world. One sign, however, seemed to stand out. The Yukon morning brought the first rain since day one of this trek, but the rain seemed to complement the autumn colors that increasingly appeared as the convoy continued north.
Here we are, Jake's Corner, Yukon, which is the junction from here is where you go down to Carcross and Skagway. And we happened upon this place a year ago, and seeing as how there are a few relics here that are similar to what we drive, only a little older, we wanted to stop in and visit again.
A couple of more hours of easy driving on the Yukon highways brought the group to Whitehorse, where they had time to drink a beer and relax. The next 2 days would be very long. On the morning of day 19, 3 vehicles decided to split from the main convoy and take the scenic route to Dawson City. The detour would lead them out of the Yukon and once again into Alaska, this time to travel the historic Alaskan Skyway, where the colors of fall were at their peak.
I was trying to shoot the fiend with some grenades, but I don't have the hang of this arrow thing yet.
Some of the flatter stretches of the Alaskan Skyway also serve as landing strips for backcountry hunters. And in this part of Alaska, city folk are a rare sight.
It's kind of a long way between McDonald's out here.
We're in Chicken. Chicken's on the map, believe it or not. This is a town that we were very much looking forward to stopping at. It has famous sticky buns. It's closed. I don't know why it's on the map.
Come across this river dredge. Dredge is one of the ways that they used to mine for gold or collect gold. It's an old barge that used to float down the river. These things could actually dig themselves their own rivers. Around Dawson, this whole area, if you fly around this area, you'll find these things out in the middle of nowhere, where they've gone and dredged their own rivers basically through the gravel.
With evening approaching, the detour group would head to Dawson City and rendezvous with the main party. Tomorrow, the group would meet the Dempster Highway. The beginning of the end would start at 4:30 a.m. Getting on the Dempster Highway before dawn was the only way to reach Inuvik before sundown. The 2-hour sunrise brought light to the world of the far north and gave everyone a chance to stop for a hot breakfast.
Eggs look good.
Eggs are looking good.
Eggs are ready. Break out the spoons. We eat from the pot.
The almost never-ending Dempster Highway runs 457 relentless miles to Inuvik. Eagle Plains, the only real service station on the route, is found at the 230-mile mark, proving once again, location is everything. Heading towards the Arctic Circle, the group came across a remarkable sight. A distant herd composed of hundreds of caribou grazed on the tundra plains. By the time the group reached the second ferry crossing, most of the vehicles had received an authentic Dempster Highway souvenir coat. The 20-minute crossing of the Mackenzie River gave the group a chance to share stories with a local moose hunter.
I just came back from hunting up the river and across at the point there at the ferry camp. And moose was walking along the shore there, so I thought I'd better go check it out and went there. One shot and there's my steak.
As darkness inched closer, shadows grew long on the Arctic wilderness, and the group found themselves chasing a 2-hour sunset. Finally, at dusk, the convoy reached Inuvik. It was the end of the Dempster Highway and the end of a remarkable journey.
Tuktoyaktuk. I've been memorizing that.
Well, they said this is the northernmost point on the landmass that is the Americas. It's amazing. Hi, everything north of here is islands. We were showing you, okay?
What am I doing?
Caribou antlers, and we have the moose antlers over there.
Oh, look at that.
Now all I've got to do is drive home. But I am very pleased to say that I've added another institution of learning to my portfolio. So I'm going to put this on my resume from here on.